Hi everyone and welcome to my place. This is a good coffee. Go and get yourself a coffee. I'm going to show you how to do something really lovely based on something we've done a couple of times before. I've had lots of requests from how do you do lanterns and flowers for table arrangements for a wedding. Well, I've done one with the meadow flowers, I've done one with autumn flowers, and due to popular demand, you've all wanted to know what to do with fresh flowers and with summer flowers, so that's what we're going to approach today. Right, here I've got a wreath frame, or it's an Oasis wreath frame. I really like these because they've got that lovely plastic tray underneath to hold the foam. It just means that you're not going to have to worry about the water actually stays inside there much better and doesn't drain away. Now, if you've never used one of these before, they come in lots of sizes. This is the size I want to use because that's going to fit nicely onto my cake tray. The reason I'm using the cake tray is because I want it elevated up off the table surface. Just give the illusion of being a little bit more than what is actually there. Just a wee trick of the trade. Now, when you're using these, if you've never used them before, fill your tub or your basin with cold, clean water, and you just put that into the water. Don't push it, just drop it in and let it just bubble away, and what will happen is it'll suck up about 10 times its own weight in water. You'll know it's ready when the little bubbles stop rising to the surface. Then just take it off, give it a shake, and then what I like to use is a handy towel or a paper kitchen towel like so, and I just put it on that to just make sure that any excess water has gone. Right, from there, once that's all soaked up and ready to go, you can use either fresh or artificial. I'm going to use a combination of both today, but it's just a matter of going from the outside there as close to that rim as you can and then just circling that. And I can't tell you how much you're going to need. That will depend on how big your wreath is or your frame that you're using. But just continue putting the ivy around until the whole thing has been covered. You might like to introduce another foliage like some ferns, some camellia, just whatever you've got. Now, if you didn't want to stick them in like so, if the foliage is a bit too fine and it sticks out a bit too much, just use a little wire clip like so, and then you can just push that into there. So just keep going until the whole thing has been covered, and remember that the foam here is just a medium in which to hold your flowers. It's not decorative in any way at all, so cover it as much as you can. Right, let me just strike that and put that to one side. Now, as I said, I'm using the cake stand here, cake plate, because I want to give it some elevation, and I actually want to assemble the whole thing as I go. Now, this is one that I did right back when I did the very first one, and I've used artificial because I knew I was going to come back to this. So I've just put the fern around the outside, just let it trail down and drape down. The other thing is that when I put the ivy around, I've just pinned that in. I could have gone through and snipped all those bits off, but if you want a bit of movement in your work, just leave those bits, because ivy's got a life of its own and it meanders and crawls and does all sorts of things, and I quite like those little bits there. It just gives more dimension and more depth. Now, the other thing that I've had comments about is if when you put your your lantern on, if it's too low, what you can do is just get a plate. This is just an ordinary old dessert plate. Get your dessert plate and then just stick that on top of there like that, and that sits quite nicely and firmly. Now, the other thing before you go any further is put your lamp on the top, your lantern on the top of it, and make sure that it's the height that you want to have it, and you're best to do that at this stage. Now, if you're going to be assembling them on location, and you're doing 2 or 3 at once, do a bit of a test run at this stage to make sure that it's going to be okay and it's going to sit, and when you put your flowers in, that you know what height you're going to be needing it to be. Now, already I've got a little bit of an issue because that is, no, that's better. Right, I'm also going to put my candle, I call this my top-down construction. I usually like to do the base and then go into the center, but for something like this, I need to get my dimensions right. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I've put my candle inside a little bowl, just so that when it drips, I know that it's going to drip into that saucer and not down into the flowers. That goes into there like so, and about now we just have to have fingers crossed that everything sits nice and flat. Now, don't close that off because you're possibly going to, you're going to have to light the candle in the evening anyway if you're having a candle in there. And actually, if you're having a lantern, of course you would have a candle in there. Right, I have got, so my foliage is all in, and I've got a selection of flowers. I've got some orchids, which are just, here in New Zealand, I can get those all year round. Now we've finished our peonies, so I just thought, well, I'll use the artificial peonies. And I've also got the very last of my hydrangeas. Now, I've had lots of questions insofar as, well, how many flowers do I need for each design? When I was doing my training, my senior used to say to me, there's a lot of money in foliage, Astar. And I really didn't understand that for quite some time, but the more foliage you use, the least amount of flowers that you need to use, unless you've got a big budget and you just jam the whole thing in. But the foliage is really great because it actually gives a base in which to work on and somewhere for the flowers to rest. Now I'm going to start off by putting in these first. So, and it's just a matter of just going in and around like so. And I've got a number of these, so I'm going to put one on that side, bring another one in and over to there, and I'm going to have to work quite gently because I don't want to be upsetting the dynamics and my construction of, well, not the construction, the balance of what I'm doing here. I don't want, actually what I want to say is I don't want anything tipping over. So they just will get pushed into there like so, and I've got two more, so I'm going to bring one into there, and then I'll bring another one into there. And I've kept these quite close, but I've brought one up and taken one down. Now with the orchids, I'm going to put those in. Will I put those in now? No, I won't. I'm going to use those like little birds at the end. So I've got all of my hydrangeas. Now just clip all of those, and then they're just going to just be, and like things like hydrangeas, I call these lovely filling flowers because they cover a really big area, as you can see. So cut all of these to the length that you want them before you go any further. And I'm just going to put one into there, like so. And it's really good too if whatever you're using actually has, oops, didn't get that in there, if it's got leaves with it, just put the leaves with it. And I don't mind that that's sort of like covering that, it just adds a little bit more visual interest to what you're doing. And I've got that, which I'll put into there, and hopefully I have enough to go around the whole side. Whoa, there we go. And I've got one left. In fact, I've got a couple of buds. So I'm now going to put the buds up to come up the side of my design. So I've got one on that side, and I'll bring one over to there. Oopsie daisy. I've actually been a bit I've covered this with a little bit much. That can go to there. It's a little bit too much foliage into there. Now you could put one into there and you could put one into there, but for a little bit of variation, why don't you just put two together, put one there, and then I'll put that one over there like so. And then with the orchids, it's just a matter of poking your little orchids in around there. And if you're ever stuck and wanting to know what kind of what colours go with what I suggest you do, well, this is what I do anyway. I look up, it was the green and pink theme, so I've got the green candle, and then to bring that green through, I've just put the orchid. That's why I've selected the orchid. And the other thing is that the little lip and the marking colourings come through into the peonies and into the hydrangeas. So that's pretty much why I call hydrangeas a really lovely blend. It's like for me, it's like a blending flower because it blends my colours together. If you wanted to, you could put some lilies into that, you could put some carnations, whatever you've got, but it's going to, the amount that you get in there is going to determine how much foliage you put in there to start with. But make sure everything's wedged in really, really firmly before you start. And there you are, it's ready to go into the table, onto the table surface. And what I would do is I would have a couple of candles on either side of that, which is going to extend the design even further. Hope you've enjoyed that. Easy summer table decorating. See you another day.